Hey, friends. Welcome to the Call the Farms podcast. I'm your host, Tim Eng, the homesteading agent, joined by my lovely wife, Sophie.
Hey friends, this is Sophie with Sprinkle with Soil and the Homesteading Lender. The last 2 weeks have been a real stress tester. We've had storms, we've had travel, namely Tim was out for a week. There have been some major market shifts and there have been some big wins all happening at once. And it's a reminder that homesteading isn't just about land or animals. It's about how you prepare, adapt, and make decisions when things get unpredictable.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about how we prepared for winter this year on our farm and how it differed from years past. We're also going to be talking about a much anticipated housing market update. This past week, there has been so many changes, especially with President Trump's pick for Federal Reserve chair. We're going to talk about interest rates as well as housing market trends. And we're going to end the conversation this evening with homestead security tips and recommendations. So stay tuned till the end.
I'm so excited. All right, let's get started. Can you believe it's already February? We are now recording this on February 1st, and I wanted to talk about how things have been the last week. We've all heard that Winter Storm Fern, that's right, sounds like we're now naming our winter storms, hit across the board, much in the South this past week. But prior to that, we had a very cold week, and Tim happened to be out of town for his MLO mortgage loan officer training in Cleveland, Ohio, where that was also cold. But that left me at home to figure out how to use and warm up the central boiler. So I got really good at it because it's quite a chore, making sure that we can light it as quickly as possible and as hot as possible. And I've got it to a really good point where we are now in t-shirts and shorts.
You've done a really good job.
It is almost like 8 degrees outside, and we're running on just wood heat right now. So we're very blessed. But also in the last week when Winter Storm Fern hit, we were prepping for things like an ice storm. We'd never been a part of an ice storm before in California. If you have, please give us tips below and comment and let us know. How have you ever gone through an ice storm? Because we have never even heard of freezing rain prior to this. So all the stories we heard that even with a quarter inch of ice, it could bring down power lines. So the thing that we had been preparing for, which thanks to being from California, we have had to prepare for power outages because PG&E would just decide that they were going to do rolling blackouts and we'd be left without power. So that's trained us a lot. And we used the same training that we had for preparing for this ice storm. And we made sure that in the morning when I got up, I was doing laundry, I was running the dishwasher, and then cooking all of our meals in the beginning of the day to heat up the house because we just weren't sure. The night before, we heard the storm was coming. We made sure that we all took showers and that we were cleaning because we just weren't sure if we were going to have access to our water. Now, we do have backup power and electricity, so we were partially off grid, but we wanted to take advantage of all the things that we could do on the grid as best as possible, including, even though we have a well, we wanted to make sure that our bathtub filled up with water. This, again, was something that I grew up with my grandfather and my mom in California, and the numerous amount of earthquakes that we grew up with, and mom always had that prepared. And we have some free flowing water. We had some buckets set aside so that if we needed to use that water to flush our toilets, we could do that and save the water in the bathtub for things like sanitization. We did okay. And a lot of the folks in Middle Tennessee got hit really hard. We saw some videos of Nashville and it looked like a war zone, quite frankly. We didn't know that trees actually explode because of the ice and the freezing temperatures, that what happens with the sap inside the tree is that it freezes and then it spontaneously combusts and the tree actually explodes. And so that's pretty scary. So we're grateful to be able to come on here and share some of the learnings that we have, but prayers to everybody who has been affected by the storm, because we know a couple of our friends and family that have been without power for a little over a week now.
That's right. Our prayers go out to our friends, and we know that there are a lot of people that have been affected by the winter storm from this past week. There's so much that you can prepare for, and to look back on the past few years since we've moved from California to Tennessee, we have made some great progression. This past year alone, we addressed and got ball waters installed for providing water for animals. That was our biggest concern because the past 2 years, we've been carrying 5 gallon buckets of water in the snow in the winter, and that's no fun whatsoever. But we've learned that even then, you're still going to have to go out and check on them because those balls will get frozen over time. You have to go down and actually pump. I felt like I was giving CPR to one of these balls. But anyways, I thought that was humorous. But in any case, I mention this because there is nothing that you can do that's 100% foolproof. There are so many things that you can try to forecast and think about. But as Sophie mentioned, an ice storm is something that we have not encountered coming from California. We're prepared for earthquakes. We're prepared for some of the winter weather since being here in Tennessee, but it's a constant learning experience. And that's something that we want to apply moving forward. So we definitely take any helpful tips that you have. Please be sure to leave them below.
Yeah. And not only that, we went straight into a bomb cyclone this weekend. So we have had a pretty busy week. We've stayed indoors and stayed home for the most part. But Friday after work and after school, knowing that there was going to be the bomb cyclone hitting this weekend, we decided for a couple of hours to take the children out to Gatlinburg and we got to play really hard. We took them to a gem mining, and that was overdue, 2 months overdue for a belated birthday gift. And then we also went to do an escape room, our 64th escape room with the children. And it was so much fun because this location has a challenge mode, which means that if you can escape this room, and typically you get 60 minutes if you're not familiar with escape rooms, if you can get out in under 45 minutes with zero hints, you will get your entire group of people reimbursed and all of the tickets. So that was fantastic because we talk about intrinsic motivation and now adding extrinsic motivation. We had so much fun and we got out in 45 minutes without any hints. And so the entire trip was free.
It was really fun. And typically, when you book these rooms, sometimes you'll get paired up with some strangers who want to play the game at the same time. And oftentimes, it's kind of like a bummer, like we want to have our own private room. But in this particular case, since we were in challenge mode and the three other women who were doing the game with us, they were also very experienced. It was a really fun game because everyone was united
Yeah.
to make sure that we can get out without any hints.
Yeah, we asked them if they wanted to do challenge mode with us, and the other one was also an expert. The other two are newer, which was totally fine. But it was so much fun to play with. And normally we don't actually enjoy playing with random folks that we don't know. We do love playing with our other friends if we can get them to come out with us. But for the most part, it was a lot of fun because we were all motivated to get it done within 45 minutes, which I think was our record
Mhm.
time because it's, again, talking about that intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I think it's called integrated motivation. So just the psychology behind it is so much fun. And actually, when we got out, it started snowing. So that was our cue to go home.
Yep.
And it was gnarly, that drive. We knew we wanted to go home before it got dark, but we were probably 30 minutes off schedule because the last 30 minutes of the drive was scary. We went down, we made sure that we stayed on the main roads, but even then, the main roads out here in our rural county was not really maintained.
Yep. So take it slow and don't stomp on the brakes. We made it back, but we were driving into the storm. But I don't know, to me, it was worth it. We were always trying to make sure we have work life balance, especially spending time with our children.
Because the next day we woke up to in total 12 inches of snow. So we have never had this much snow before. It's been a lot of fun for the children and fun for us to navigate. I love leaf blowing snow. Now that is my new favorite pastime. It's like free therapy. But I also wanted to give a couple of tips for if you're ever traveling in gnarly weather. We did pack some extra things on the trip. We knew it was just going to be a short trip, but you also never know. But we made sure we packed extra blankets in the car. We had pillows, we had flashlights that were charged, a gallon of water, fire starters, and also had snacks. We had made sure we got protein. So in the form of like beef jerky, we had some of those Bear apple crisp snacks, which was great. But yeah, just some travel tips to make sure that we got home safely and lots of prayers.
Yep, absolutely. And this past weekend, we've had a lot of fun doing some work in terms of getting the snow out. But I just remember growing up and going to Lake Tahoe to find snow. Now I can just open up the door and see it. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I took the camera out with the kids today, and we took some pictures, and the kids went sledding, found and made their own pathways, and it's really great to see them having so much fun.
And this morning, we brought hay out to one of our cows on that leased land that we've talked about in a few episodes back. We have leased land that's not too far away from us. It's about 4 or 5 acres, and we have one of our cows out there. And because of the snow, we wanted to make sure she had enough food to eat. So we brought the hay out, and it was definitely interesting trying to get out of our driveway and getting onto the street with my tractor. And typically I'm more self-conscious about cars waiting behind me, but there was no traffic today, so that was nice. And I was glad that you were right behind me, making sure that I got there safely.
Yeah, that was your escort. But there was a little tricky thing on the hill where the forklift piece or the spear piece fell off, and
Oh,
so we did have to get out of the car on the road and get that readjusted.
I didn't properly lock it, so we had to make an adjustment while on the road. But good news, we got the hay over, and Harmony is very happy that we brought the hay. And also this weekend, exciting news, we're wrapping up our book, Nourishing Asian Homestead.
Yay!
This is a sequel to the Nourishing Asian Kitchen cookbook, which is award winning that you put out. And this time around, I get to be part of it. So it's been really fun. And we can't wait for it to come out. In fact, we're going to be unveiling it when?
Early September. We don't have the official date yet, but it'll be very exciting. And I was just thinking about it now that you were talking. Chelsea Green came down to meet with me in February of 2025. And I can't believe it has been a whole year already. I
Wow.
just thought it was a couple months ago. And that's when we started writing the book because they came and asked me if I could write the sequel to Nourishing Asian Kitchen. And I had said, yes, but not now because our pandemic project is what I'd call it. I had wanted to share our family story from in the kitchen to our homestead and all the things that we've learned across the way. But that's why I had created Sprinkle with Soil because most recipes always end with sprinkle with salt. But to me, it never ended at the end of the meal or at the start of a meal. It always ends back at the soil. And it's this regenerative cycle, this circle of life, and this closed loop system that I have loved and appreciated so much from growing up with my grandparents to my mom and learning from the kitchen to the soil how we should be nurturing ourselves. And so I said, I'll place the cookbook number 2 on hold, but I do want to finish this closed loop system. So I'm so excited to bring you along where you actually get to share a lot about how we run our home and homestead. And you also have some pretty exciting announcements as well, Mr. Author.
I do. Thank you very much. I just signed with Lions Press, and I am excited to announce that I will be having my book published in fall of 2027. It's called The Homesteader's Guide to Land. In the book, I'm going to be talking about how to find land that is suitable for homesteading, along with how to finance that land. And sometimes you might have to come up with some creative financing options. And then finally, how to properly secure that homestead. And just as you alluded to, based off the SAFE method that I developed based on my years graduating from West Point, serving in the Army as an Army combat engineer deployed to Iraq, and using these time tested, proven tactics and applying it to the homestead. I'm very excited to be able to release this and be able to share this with everyone. We also have some exciting events to announce because both of us are going to be on the road and we're going to be showing up at a few homesteading events, ones that we hand selected because 2024 was wow, that was a super busy year when you released the Nourishing Asian Kitchen cookbook.
Yeah, it was 17 speaking engagements in just the year. And so we made sure that in 2025, we slowed things way, way down because it was pretty much close to burning out. And then 2026, we are picking back up with a few select conferences, the ones that we personally would attend, even if we weren't speaking at them. So please, if you have an opportunity, I know it's hard. We totally understand. It's hard to get out of your homestead. It's hard to take some time off, especially when we should be planting things into the ground, harvesting, and then preserving. It's a busy stretch of time from spring to fall. And then even winter, we've stayed pretty busy. But if you can come to these events so you can learn hands on and you can ask your questions to all of the wonderful speakers, the first one that we're kicking off with is actually the one that I will be going to also in, I think it's pronounced Worcester, Ohio. It is the Seeking Whole Health Conference, and it's very exciting. Alex Clark will be there. Dr. Bob Sears will be there. So many of my friends will also be there as well, but I will be doing two sessions, an intensive demo, as well as showing people how to cook nourishing food, such as my famous chicken pho that I cook all the time for our family, and then the kimchi demonstration as well. So make sure that you sign up for that. That kicks off in April. And then
In May, we're going to be at the Prairie Roots Homesteading Summit in Watford City, North Dakota. What? We're going to be in North Dakota.
what? And we just had Daniel on our previous podcast episodes. If you want to learn more about homesteading in the Great Northern Plains area, there's so much to learn about that. But if you're in the North Dakota, Idaho, Montana, South Dakota area, or even Ohio, make sure you come out. It's the first annual Prairie Roots Homesteading Summit, and it's got some fantastic speakers as well. Justin and Rebecca Rhodes will be there, and we will also be representing the East Tennessee, Western North Carolina area out there in the Dakotas. And so it's going to be so much fun. Our friend Janelle Anderson will be there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to go to one of our favorites, Modern Homesteading Conference in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And that's going to be occurring in June 26th and 27th. I'll be giving a couple of talks, one of which is going to be buying land for a homestead, what to know before you commit, and then how to build community when you don't know anyone. And that's going to be very interesting because I am introverted. And so, how did we find community, build community, and be able to share some helpful tips
Yeah,
for those who are doing that?
I'm so excited. Modern Homesteading Conference almost feels like a family reunion. This will be our third one that we'll be going
Mhm.
to. It's great. All of the organizers that are there, Melissa K. Norris, and it's just so many great speakers there. And the vendors are fantastic. Selfishly, I have a lot of fun shopping there.
And the keynote speaker is Joel Salatin. I mean, everything's talking about full circle. Like Joel is also writing the forward to our upcoming book,
Right.
and we're also going to be releasing it at Polyface Farms too.
Right. Also at the Modern Homesteading Conference, Sally Fallon Morell, who wrote the foreword to the Nourishing Asian Kitchen, will be there. And I just heard that Maureen Diaz, our good friend from God's Good Table, will also be speaking there. So it's so much fun. Like I said, it is like a family reunion. So make sure you go to Modern Homesteading Conference, and Coeur d'Alene is absolutely beautiful in Idaho. It's actually one of the places that we had considered moving
Mhm.
to when we were thinking about moving from California out.
Yeah, that's right. And all the links will be below. So be sure to check it out.
Yes. And the big, exciting conference that we will be speaking at as well in the fall will be at Chelsea Green's very first ever Authors Convergence event, which is going to be at Polyface Farms and Joel Salatin's farm. So we will have so many great Chelsea Green authors speaking there, including Sean and Beth Doherty, our good friends. And Tim and I will be sharing the stage there to share all about the Nourishing Asian Homestead. And it will be officially the place that we will be launching our book, The Nourishing Asian Homestead. So we're so excited. That will be taking place in the third or fourth week of September. So all links will be down below. Make sure that you get your tickets early. And a lot of these conferences do sell out quickly. So make sure you grab your tickets. And if you can, grab your partner, grab your friend, grab your family, and make sure they get to come learn alongside you.
Absolutely. We hope to see you there. All right. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes, the housing market update. What is going on?
Ooh, this was a very exciting week, or not, because the Feds met and again, they decided not to raise or decrease any of the interest rates. There were no changes to interest rates. I know a lot of people were hoping for a rate cut, and this is something that we talked about in the previous housing market update, where I know that the Fed has been dangling a carrot for the last, I want to say 3 years now. Rates have been the lowest they have been in over 3 years. So we are in a good place, but it's still not that Great. They decided to hold rates where they are because they're still watching inflation and they want to be careful. And so that tells us that the Fed is not ready to say that inflation is fully under control yet. And we know this, right? Now, at the same time, President Donald Trump did announce that he would like to select Kevin Warsh to replace Jerome Powell when Powell's term as Fed chair ends. So here's why that matters. So Kevin Warsh used to be known as someone who took inflation very seriously, and he actually didn't like super low interest rates. More recently, he said that he supports lower rates, but the markets right now are trying to figure out which version of him shows up. And the stock market did react on Friday. And so here's the part that is important. So here's the part that's important. And as a reminder, the Fed rates do not affect the mortgage rates. The mortgage rates are affected by the long-term 10-year treasury bond. And so when the Fed cuts the rates, what you're going to feel immediately are the interest rates on your car loans, your student loans, your credit cards, as well as your HELOCs. So you want to go ahead and grab your HELOC, refinance your auto loan, pay down your credit card. That is the time where when the Fed announces a rate cut to take advantage of it in that sense. Now, in terms of how the rates are going to move this year, I don't anticipate it dropping all that much. We'll just see how Kevin Warsh decides to play with the interest rates. But as you can tell, many of the markets are manipulated. So our advice has always been do not put your dreams on hold. If you are able to purchase and make your move now, you are not going to beat inflation, right? So buy what you need to buy now, whether that's real estate, whether that's land, your next home, your next move, your next equipment. Buy what you need now. Land is not ever going to be cheaper. Property is not ever going to be cheaper than it is today, and especially land. So we say this because as interest rates drop, the housing prices will go up because there's more competition in the market. And when they drop, though, if you already have your home, you have an opportunity to refinance. And many of my buyers from years ago are now in a position after 2 to 3 years, because rates have dropped the lowest that they have been in the last 3 years. My buyers are now coming out with a cash out refi where they're actually taking money out of the equity that they've built up in their home over the past 2 to 3 years, and they're paying off all of their debt. And if you've listened to the last two housing market updates, we've shared so many stories of clients that we've helped pay off over $150,000 in using the equity that they have built up in their home. Why not? This is the best way to take care of you and your family and your future. Not only that, over the past few weeks, we have seen gold surge, and this past week hit its highest at $5,200, as well as silver. Silver has hit almost 120. And on Friday, I believe that is the 30th of January, we saw that there was a drastic and unprecedented dip of almost 34% drop. And that's interesting because this kind of movement usually means that investors are worried about inflation and uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that the market went crazy. In fact, there was a lot of hype. In fact, some of the websites shut down or actually had wait lists for people who were clamoring to purchase gold and silver over this past weekend. We're big believers in terms of you need to diversify your funds. We're definitely siding more on land and real estate, but if you need to get precious metals or take a look at crypto, because I believe Bitcoin went down to below 80,000. Check those out and be sure to speak with a financial advisor or a professional.
Just do your research, right? For us, I think we lean more heavily on, clearly we're biased towards real estate, but more so on the physical assets. When
Mhm.
we knew that there was a potential of high inflation back in 2020, when we saw how the markets reacted with the shutdown all across the board, we knew that physical assets was something that we had to start investing in, whether that be the tractor, property, seeds, actual physical, tangible assets that you can hold on to, because we can't print that. It's not like we can print the dollar, but I would say I remember we did have one gold coin that we sold because our mentor Maggie, she said, "Hey, if you have 1 ounce of gold," this was 3 years ago, you can sell that, buy your first dairy cow, and she will pay you over and over. And I said, okay, I guess, because what are we going to do with this one gold coin that we had? And it's true. We ended up using that to buy our first dairy cow. And from there, whenever she was producing milk, she has made us close to $500 to $800 a month. And it's been now 3 years since we've had her. And so it's fantastic. That's my way of printing our own money in a sense. But we're just not making more land. We're not making more gold or silver either.
She's literally a cash cow. If you've tuned in to some of our past housing market updates, I've been telling sellers to hold. I'm telling sellers right now, sell. The housing market is starting to heat up, and I've noticed some trends, and I wanted to share that with you across the board. I have sellers in near Nashville, and they're actually going out to Wyoming in the next couple of weeks to start looking for their next home. In addition to that, I have a couple that's coming out from Colorado next week to start taking a look at land out here. And in fact, a couple of listings that I've had in Rogersville, Tennessee went pending too over the past couple of weeks. And let's talk about land. Land has just been all the hype lately, all the rage, I guess, back in our generation, what we said. And I had 8 lots over 53 acres of land in Churchill, Tennessee for sale. I already sold lot 8 and I have 7 other lots. It's now listed on the MLS, and each lot ranges from 5 acres to a little over 10 acres. And this is absolutely great, like previously used farmland. And so definitely check this out. I want to highlight homesteads that are available. And there is in particular one in Fieldale, Virginia. That's in Southwest Virginia, a 2 bed, 2 bath, 1,100 square foot home on a little over an acre. And it's solar owned too. So you can save on your electric bills. This home is listed at $215,000. It is reasonably priced. If you are interested, be sure to reach out to me for more information. I share this because I'm seeing a lot more buyer activity right now, especially if it's under the $300,000 range. There's more of a buying frenzy that's going on, maybe in anticipation for an interest rate drop. We don't know. But as you mentioned, it may just stay the same.
Maybe, but again, interest rates are lowest they have been in 3 years. You also said an interesting fact years ago that buyers typically come out after when?
Typically, they come out after the Super Bowl. So they're coming out a little earlier.
We had a house on the market since last April, and I know the rates were high at the time, and our sellers wanted to list it pretty high. And so it sat on the market.
Yep.
And so we just relisted it. And this week alone, even in sub freezing temperatures, there were 5 showings. And I was like, what is going on? It was sitting pretty silent for a couple weeks.
Yep.
And it's just interesting to see that no, you're right. It was a little above the 300,000 mark, but over 5 acres too. So that's a rare find
Mm.
in a great county.
Absolutely. And if you're still interested in Northeast Tennessee for land, that ship has not sailed just yet. I have clients that are looking to put money in purchasing the land now and then building their dream homestead a little bit later. I've had owners of companies that are looking to diversify their funds. And in addition to putting it into the stock market, they also want to be able to invest in land. So if you're interested in learning more, be sure to reach out to us. And if you have any mortgage questions or investments, we would be more than happy to walk you through it.
Oh, and one more recap, I guess we forgot to mention is this past week we held our very first IBC or
Okay.
concept workshop, and we had such a great turnout. We had 70% of people who registered show up for this. And it's all about becoming your own banker. And that concept is great for people who want to build a parallel system for their money, make their money work twice, and also security for them and their families. So we will be hosting more of these types of workshops where you can learn additional things because you're learning alongside us, essentially. We are asking the questions because Tim has done research on it over the past 10 years on infinite banking concept. And it's great to be able to leverage someone who has such great knowledge and someone that we trust and is our advisor to give us information as to how we should be structuring things, but also making our money work twice and tax free. we're trying to figure out how to retire and not wait till 65 to do that.
Yeah, who came up with a magical age of 65 that this is going to be the age when you get to stop working and then just go on vacation? I don't think we're ever going to stop working, but get to the point where you don't have to work. And we're really excited about this. If you have any questions on the infinite banking concept, we don't trust everything we read. Now, we read this book on becoming your own banker. I read it over a decade ago, but I haven't really fully implemented until more recently. And if you tune back to a couple of previous episodes, we did do an interview with Kurt Berry. And so that will give you a nice introduction of what the infinite banking concept is all about. And please be sure to join us at our very next one that's going to be happening towards the end of February. And we're going to include a link and we're going to be talking about how we can utilize HELOCs. As Sophie mentioned, we've been getting so much interest on HELOCs and we've been helping a lot of clients be able to consolidate their debt so that they can free up cash and create this cash flow for them so that they can invest their funds, save their money, and be able to save up for that down payment on that dream home or homestead. And once you do own that home, there are costs that come with it, maintenance costs. Same with when you own a homestead, there are costs that come up with that creep up. And you want to be able to have a way to finance that. And the answer is not always just going to a bank and getting a loan.
That's right. And it's interesting because it's coming from two folks that are in real estate and financing, which we have always said leverage good debt, right? There's good debt and there's bad debt. Leverage the good debt. So, not your consumer credit cards, but your debt, like your mortgage, so that you can jumpstart your home, right? You're building equity for your family, you're building your homestead, you're growing your own food, and you can start wherever you are. Your first home is not going to possibly be your forever home. And we've said that to our clients back in the Bay Area. We say it here too. We're living examples of that. Not that we've wanted to flip homesteads, but we've had to flip homesteads and we've learned a lot along the way. And so when you leverage good debt, it's to jumpstart you into whatever your dream goals are. Get there quickly, but then also if you're having to leverage good debt, then make sure that you get out of debt as quickly as possible. And so one of the things that we're able to do this with is the infinite banking concept. And it's a concept you can use any form of investment, but plenty of things to talk about. And we're excited to share with you how we're leveraging all of this, even as people who are in the finance and mortgage industry, to finance our own goals as well.
Before we wrap things up, I want to mention this because I'm starting to see a trend here that there is a hesitation for whether it's this generation or whatnot, that home ownership is unattainable. There's this myth that we're not going to be able to afford to purchase a home or afford to purchase land to homestead on. And I want to say right now that is a myth, that no matter where you're at, whatever your budget size is, there is a way that you can become an owner. And sometimes we have to get over that fear. And just more recently, 2 weeks ago, I helped a family. Now, they are in their late 50s, and this is their very first home. And they told me, "Thank you so much, Tim. We don't know why we didn't do this sooner." They have their adult children living with them because they want them to be able to save up a down payment for their own home as well. And so it's a beautiful story seeing them finally come together and owning a home and some land as well. And this is out in Middle Tennessee. Just hearing that story. And then also, I get phone calls. I have client calls all the time. And I'll also include that link too, where you can book time with me if you have any questions on just getting financing options as well as homesteading, what the steps are in terms of how to own your first home. Because frankly, Sophie and I, we've talked about it. And that's one of the biggest regrets we've had in life is that we didn't purchase our first home sooner. And that was something that to us was adulting. It was until we found our forever place that we're never going to move ever again. And that again is a myth too, because if we had owned the homes wherever I PCS to all the different posts and then rented those out, all of that could have been passive income and could help us create more cash flow now that we've played the game with our children and learning about it from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad of making our money work for us. If we had already purchased those homes, and today that passive income would help cover our required costs right now and help get us that much closer to retirement. I share this with you because we're both big believers of real estate, that it should not be intimidating for you. I know It can be your greatest asset in terms of how expensive a house is. But even a month ago, we helped a client where her parents and her grandparents never owned a home. And we walked them through the process. Sophie did the loan. I helped them search for the right home. And this was another beautiful story. We helped them overcome that challenge, that myth that they could never own a home, and to actually see them like light up that they found their home. And everyone thinks their home is going to be a forever home. It may not be a forever home, but that's okay. We both work with full integrity and we look at the homes as if, well, if things change in their work or in their family and they have to move in the next 2 to 5 years, is this a very good home in terms of would it be able to rent? Would you be able to sell it and earn equity? Like what are the odds? And so based off our years of experience, this is the lens that we view things and how we work with our clients. And I just wanted to share that note with you because homeownership should be more attainable and we can help you with that.
Yes. And at the end of the day, it's about mitigating risk. We do what we do because there wasn't anybody to help us, even in finding homes, financing, and even looking at how to secure our homestead financially, how to even think about all of these things that we didn't know the questions to ask. We're grateful that you are here and listening and joining in on us. And if this episode was helpful, if it was grounding or it gave you clarity in a noisy season in your life, I know we just finished January, but a lot of things have happened. We'd love for you to share this episode with a friend or family member who's walking a similar path. And make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to us, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, anywhere else, so you don't miss market updates, any homestead strategy conversations, and future workshops that we'll be announcing soon. And we'll have a link below to sign up for our newsletter, where we always will give you an update for where the next workshops are happening. As always, thank you so much for being a part of our community. We don't take your time or your trust lightly. And so until next time, stay warm, stay grounded, and stay healthy.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, friends.